think time to have another go at a man of war ship. As you may have seen in the older videos, I've got the 2 squadrons of Imperial war galleys, and it'd be nice to get the Imperial Greatship added to the fleet. As with most of the man of war miniatures I have, they are in the original box. Really appealing box design. I remember seeing these on the shelf back when they were in the Games Workshop store, and I instantly was interested in them. It's the mixture of the photography of the miniature, the bold colours, the consistency of the layouts, everything just looks really nice. And the size of them also. There was the kind of smaller size boxes like this, and then a larger format for the squadrons of 3 vessels that were maybe a bit bigger for this smaller size of box. So the Imperial Greatship, with that very distinctive red and black colour scheme, and as we'll see in the model, certainly a floating arsenal bristling with guns. And nice to see the designer, Norman Swales, getting a credit for the work. So in the boxes, nice little polystyrene insert, the sprue of masts that you'll need, and then the parts of the lead model. So you can see on the sides there and on the main deck the array of cannons. Maybe a bit of slip in the moulding or the casting. You can just see where it's not quite perfect. Might need to try and do something about that with the modelling knife. And then the 2 other components. So pretty simple models. I mean, most of them were 1 piece even, but this one's got 3 bits to glue together. I think for me, I'll trim them up, clean them up, and then probably paint them separately, just so I can get into the nooks and crannies. Because if you glue that together, you instantly can't really get into the bits hidden away. Which is maybe overkill doing it like that, but I do prefer it. And then hidden at the bottom of the box were the sails that you can cut out and stick to the masts. You get enough there for the entire fleet of Imperial vessels, and then some instructions backed by Jane. Yeah, so for me now, it's just going to be a case of clipping away the bits I don't need. And then using the knife to tidy up. But given how soft the metal is, you've just got to watch you don't take off too much. So I'll carry on with that and try and get this all cleaned up. Yeah, the slip on this casting is actually pretty bad. You know, when you consider in the artwork, the timber running on the outside of the hull, it should all be perfectly straight, and the little squares around the cannons poking out from the hull. You can see there, kind of step shift. It's quite pronounced. I guess like back in the early 90s, when you buy your Greatship and take it home, I'm not sure you would even notice or bother. So I'm going to try to kind of cut away at the metal with the knife a little bit. I mean, at the risk of damaging surrounding areas though. I think I'll only be able to get it so good. I guess that's just the quirks of old metal miniatures, the casting process. Okay, that'll do it for the tidy up. You can only go so far, and as I said, I'll keep them separate and give them a prime. I used my fist in red to get these primed, given that there's quite a lot of red in the paint scheme. And as per the War Galleys, I've got this light wood colour for the main deck. So I'm just going to try and get the paint in and around all these little cannons, and then do a tidy up with the red again later once I get the rest of the base colours done. Again, you've got to admire the sculpting on these little ships, just done all by hand and hand tools. It's hard enough to paint them, but I'll work around all three parts like this and see how it looks. And I'm going to make lots of little mistakes. There's no avoiding it. And now I'm just trying to catch the little wooden platforms under each of the cannon. Just a bit of scrag brown. You'll see the kind of mess I'm making, going over edges and things. That'll be okay because I can tidy up most of it. Nice if you can use a few different colours just to help pick out the detail. Trying my best not to get this brown onto the deck if I can avoid it. Try to leave the red as the main tidy up pass. Kind of final layer to do. And then going by the photography on the box, these stairs are also a brown. And then onto the cannons now, using lead belcher, which I suppose is apt. Quite messy so far, but again, there's going to be black surrounds to paint next, so there will be a kind of natural tidy up. There's a lot of cannons. What I've been doing is just going down each side with a strip of the metal. I think it does help having a selection of different colours. Starts to bring out the detail when you can see the different elements easier. Essentially, I'll go down each side and then across the top, and that should do them. So now I'm on to the dark parts, which I suppose in general you would describe as being black, but I'm actually going to just use the Eshin Grey as my base coat, as I did with the war galleys. So I have to freehand in one of these verticals here. Because these minis are moulded from hand-sculpted miniature, hand-sculpted master, there can be differences. They're not perfect. The way I'm tackling them is just to run the paint down the side of these little protruding vertical columns, because I do want to get some of the grey in there. Always best to have a sort of methodical approach to these paint schemes. And then once I've gone round them all in one direction, I flip the miniature over and then catch the edges on the other side. So quite a few of these to do. Just keep going until I get through them. I might need to go over them again just to ensure that the grey is nice and solid. So yeah, I've carried on just going down the edges of everything that needs to be this dark grey or black. And I find that if you go around the edges first, it's always easier going into the larger areas to fill in. You've already done the kind of tricky bit. I'm still going to have clean up to do with the red once I've done the other base colours. I think I've only got some gold to do next, and then it'll just be a case of going around it all with the red to tighten up all the areas where I've maybe gone over the edge a bit. But the red and black always makes for a really nice paint scheme. And then, as mentioned, some Mephiston red again. But I'm just going to try and neaten up some of these edges. To be honest, I never find that the Mephiston red matches very well with the primer. Yeah, the GW Mephiston red primer. You can always see the painted on stuff. Looks a bit more vibrant. So I'm first going to use the Seraphim Sepia on the deck. This light coloured decking. I'll just start the process of building up a dividing line between the other colours. And now some Agrax Earthshade for the darker wooden parts, little platforms under each cannon, just to see the difference. You can start to make out the definition now. You get that outlining effect happening. So I just get a small amount on this detail brush and then just try and aim it in where I want it to go, just with the aim of getting that nice dark line starting to happen. Not difficult to do, pretty easy if you've got the right brush for it. Because I think what can happen is you get too used to the technique of just painting shade paints everywhere, which is how we use them in most cases, but it can also be used with a bit of care as well. And then onto the Carberg Crimson for the red. Still using the small detail brush for this. So I just need enough of it to get the dark line for the red. Also use it on the inside of the bulwark, just to make sure that gets a coat also. Just try to keep it off of the main deck, so I don't use too much in one go. So just doing the Nuln oil now on the dark grey and the metal. So you start to see the difference being made. As before, just working around in both directions. And the figurehead on the bow of the ship. And then for the cannons, similar process. Just right over the top where they're sat down on those platforms. And getting the layering kicked off by returning back to the Mephiston red and going over the various areas and trying to be neat from now on. If I can't fit the brush into an area, then just leave it. Now for the dark areas, I'm just going to highlight them with lighter greys, and it's going to be heavy-handed at the moment because ideally I want these to be essentially representing black, but for me it's easier to highlight them first a bit too strongly, and then I'll come back with some black paint later to darken these down. Yeah, so the plan is to now come back in with just some thinned down black. Maybe a couple of passes. Just try to leave a little bit of that light grey highlight. I find that using a method like this, I can really tighten up fine highlights. So now I'm on to the Evil Sun's Scarlet. It's always a good stage to get to in terms of getting some more vibrancy into that red. And I'll go over this a couple of times. I do want to leave some of the previous darker red still showing. Yeah, this is the Wild Rider red now. Just to get the red areas highlighted. See how it looks when it dries. I might go over it again. Might also have to go over those darker areas with a matte varnish, just to calm down the glossiness. The shades tend to add a bit of gloss to these things now. And then just a bit of Fire Dragon Bright. At the tops of those red highlights. Just gives it that nice impact. You don't want too much, just a small amount. Nice small brush. So we'll get there now. I'm just going to use some silver top of the cannons. That just helps brighten those. And then in preparation of adding a dot of black for the barrel, which might be quite tricky at this scale, just going to hit them with the silver on the ends, just so I end up with a bit of contrast. That does make a difference. The reason I started painting this Greatship is over on the Crown of Command Discord channel, which if you're into the old Warhammer stuff, I suggest you go and join that via the Crown of Command YouTube channel. And within the Discord there's a Man of War page or section, and there was mention of May, the month of May, being a month to paint something for Man of War. So I'm not sure if many people are doing that or not. I saw a few people having a go. So at the very end of May, which this is just the last couple of days of May, I've decided to have a go at it. And as it stands, this is actually the 31st of May, so I'm not sure I'm going to have time to get this completely done. The masts and the adding of the sails is another little job to do, which I might not have time for. But nonetheless, it's still worth getting this bit done. This is the time-consuming part. I think there are 62 or 64 cannons on the ship, which is a lot of cannons. I don't think you get to roll 64 dice in the game. So I've got the masts now all primed and the base colours done. It's going to be all the same colour scheme and techniques as I've done for the ship itself. The only thing I'd recommend are some of these little clamps that you can use just to make it more convenient to hold them. What I thought we'd do now is maybe just try and paint on a name for the vessel. There's this convenient large flat space on the aft end, so I'm thinking of calling it the Spear. And Spear is a good name because it's got 5 letters, which means there's a bit of symmetry, and you can get, or at least start with, the middle letter being E. And the good thing is, if it doesn't look right, you can just remove it and start again. Once you've got it drawn in, maybe start adding a little bit of detail to it. I don't know, do I like that? Maybe. Just got to remember to put in the black dot for the barrels, and this 0.1 permanent marker. It's quite helpful, just rather than using brush, which can be a bit frustrating on smaller pieces. Okay, now comes the quite delicate process of gluing this together. Okay, I think that's everything's seated right. I may have to touch things up here and there, having handled it. Removing the miniature from the blue tack and things like that, you're applying quite a lot of pressure, so it's possible that I've spoiled a few bits here and there. Yeah, and on to the nerve-wracking task of cutting down the masts. Difficult to judge the height that you need. Whereas on the pirate whereas on the war galleys, the plastic ships, you get a bit of a chance to position and change the mast and its position. It's trying to get it vertical, but with these ones I'm having to use super glue, so you don't quite get the same flexibility or time. Yeah, just make sure everything's facing the right way. It's a nice height. I found that if you chop them near the thicker part on the mast, it fits into the holes in the deck quite well. It's not too bad. It does make for a nice ship. You know, the design of it. It's got a really nice look to it. So we're done now with the main ship itself. The thing that remains to do are the sails. I may now have a go at painting my own sails in the style of the ones I'd done at the time. There's 4 of the sails to do and then 3 of the banners at the top, so that's quite a lot to paint. It might be interesting to do it, and given that this is my kind of flagship vessel for my Empire fleet. But in any case, thanks very much for watching the video.